Hey hoo hey 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 hoo hey 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 hoo hey 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 hoo hey hey hoo hey 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 hoo hey 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 hoo hey 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 hoo hey hey hoo hey 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 hoo hey 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 hoo hey 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 hoo hey hey hoo hey 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 hoo hey hey hoo hey 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 hoo hey.
Really love that. Thank you.
I had forgot to mute myself, and I had just before Henry barked when you were doing your chant, and he started howling, like absolutely howling, and I was so tempted just to let him go and let everybody hear it because he doesn't howl.
Oh,
Henry
thank
doesn't
you,
howl.
Wow.
Henry.
He's,
Thank you,
he's
Henry.
very barky, but he does howl. He was sitting right beside me from there, came and sat beside me. He was just sitting there, just howling. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like so tempted just to let him go, like so that you could hear it. It was just kind of like, should I, shouldn't I?
Oh, on, do you
I
know,
thought,
like, first of all, it's like that, it's calling to circle, which is so powerful and magical. I love it, love it. And yeah, like, because I did hear him, but for me, that's why, this is what I love. In many meditation practices, we kind of expect everything to be silent, like, everything should be quiet and perfect and silent to have that peace. But when we are in this, when we are dropping into that vibration and coming into our hearts and stopping to think, then the things that show up are so important. So it's things like that when people are like, oh, the dog's bark. Why is the dog barking? But it's like, actually, everything is perfect. It's perfect timing.
I know,
Um,
I kind of wish I hadn't muted it because you would have just been like completely blown away. I had my eyes shut, and I actually had to go, no, this is more important. I have to look at him. And he looked just like a wolf. Like he was just like face up. That was crazy. Oh
thank
my
you,
gosh.
Henry, for joining us in the circle that way. Thank you, thank
He's
you,
still
thank
right
you.
there, like sound asleep.
Bless
Well,
him.
he knows that Isla's the wolf lady, so he had to join. He had to join in.
It's kind
Um,
of crazy.
oh, that's really special. That really
It
is
is.
special.
It
I know.
really is. It's really powerful. Like, I really can't express like how, as I say, when we are kind of hooking up in this way, our animals know, and they're like, but yeah, let's celebrate, let's honor, let's call to circle, let's like it's like let's call to the ancient ones. It's being
Well,
part of.
the next time you do it, he usually is up here, and if he starts, I'm just gonna let him go, and I won't mute it because
Ooh.
I think in a way I was like kicking myself. Then when you started talking and he fell asleep, I thought I should have let this happen because it was almost like ceremonial for the
Yeah,
first one. Like it was
yeah.
quite. I've been around him for his entire life, and I've never heard him howl.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, thank you. I'm deeply honored to the spirit that is Henry. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, deep honoring, deep honoring.
Okay, so I want to welcome Dorinda into our circle here. Thank you for joining us. Um, my name is Amrys Wang from Singapore. This is the Raw Entrepreneur PawdX series. It's the very first episode of the Conscious Caregiving for Animals lectures that was going to be conducted by Dr. Isla Fishburn and Julie Anne Lee DCH, which actually I don't know what it means in Latin or whatever, but she's basically a homeopath, right? Did I get that right?
Well, it's doctor of classical homeopathy, but
There you go.
I have my British homeopathic veterinary surgeons, so a
Yeah.
little bit added to that.
So I'm going to let Isla go first. And if Isla, if you could share, a short intro and share with Dorinda who you are and why you do what you do, really.
Oh, Thank you so much. And okay, well, welcome, Dorinda. It's so nice to have you in our circle. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, like Amrys says, I'm Dr. Isla Fishburn, and so my background is in zoology and conservation biology, and masters and PhD were in conservation biology. So I've always had, as a child, a deep love of nature, a deep love of seeing everything as living, seeing everything as having a purpose. Everything that is here must have a purpose because it's here. And so really honouring that and getting people to feel that in themselves, getting people to acknowledge and have the respect for everything that's around us. Everything that is around us deserves to be honoured and have that respect. And I have a very, very deep passion for teaching people about dogs. So I do a little bit of stuff with cats and horses, but that's actually more in the shamanic work that I do. I do shamanic ceremonies for animals. So I do stuff with cats and horses, but predominantly with dogs. And my love for dogs came with the desire and passion to be a wolf conservation biologist. So that was my plan after my PhD. I was going to work in America or Europe. I didn't really care, but I was going to be out in the mud, in the rain, just learning about wolves. So I've learned a lot about them, everything from like symbology all the way up to like behaviour, conservation, ecology, conflict. And I worked with captive wolves for 3 years. And as I was working with captive wolves for 3 years, like my background as a zoologist and conservation biologist heavily focused on ecosystems. So how I see it is like everything is an ecosystem from the cosmos. We are just a cell within the cosmos. So like as we are 5 of us together right now, we are all just like a cell within the giant organism of the cosmos. But also how as individuals we are also an ecosystem, and how we can look at ecosystem disruptions within dogs as individuals, ourselves as individuals, animals as individuals. So I look at therefore what I class as nourishment. How do we create nourishment spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, starting with us as individuals, but then for the collective. For me, it's all about we do what we do, because as we do that, we are putting that into the collective as an energy, as a vibration. And I worked a lot with the captive wolves and met a lot of people that had dogs, and yet to my surprise, they had this beautiful respect and honour and awe towards a captive wild animal that they've never met. But yet the conditioning, I suppose, the learning that they had picked up from just books, or the what we see in the media, or what we are told as children of how a dog should be, was like so different. And I'm like, wow, you live with this animal, yet your understanding of your animal, your, I don't want to say love, because of course they love their animal, but it's just like, wow, you've got this, it's almost like these different set of conditions and expectations and rules for an animal that is still living. So the way that I see our animals, our domestic animals, are still, they're genetically ancient beings that live in a modern day world, and it's the modern day living that really disrupts our indigenous blueprint, our indigenous ecosystem for ourselves, for our animals. So I kind of went off from being, my focus is in conservation, of just having this beautiful connection with all of life, but what I realise is like I really need to get people to be more connected with themselves, to be connected with the animals that they coexist with, in the mission, then get connected with nature and to all of life. So I'm now like a canine wellness practitioner. I focus on canine wellness, dogs as individuals, dogs as ecosystems, and what that is, what that involves, which is a whole beautiful collective world of subjects. But I'm also a shamanic practitioner. So I also bring in the concept of spiritual malnourishment that most humans, and therefore our domestic animals, are suffering with, and how we can support our own spiritual nourishment and our dog's spiritual nourishment. Yes, so that's what I do.
Thanks, Isla. And now I'm going to introduce you to Julie Anne Lee, who is the amazing founder. And, you know, she's actually a real business owner, entrepreneur in her own right. She's Adored Bees Apothecary in Canada. She started the first veterinary hospital over there, which is basically completely holistic for animals, you know, using homeopathy and any other holistic modality. So she's really a trailblazer where she is. I have followed her for a very long time, and you know, I'm just a fangirl here of both Isla and Julie Anne Lee. So, you know, having them together with me in this circle is just super awesome. Like, I'm really, really nervous, to be honest. So I'm going to ask, so Julie, could you please share who is Julie Anne Lee, please?
I think I transform daily. I really am. That's an interesting question. I think I could have answered that even better when I was in my early 30s. And now sometimes I feel like I don't know who I am. I actually feel like I'm part of something bigger that really evolves on a daily basis. And I grew up in a rescue, and I grew up with a mom that was, you know, connected to nature. And, you know, like Isla was saying, you know, we, you know, to the point that if we you know, collected a bunch of ladybugs or something, and we were just interested in them as a kid, if we weren't respecting them in a way that, you know, my mom was trying to instill on us, which is we are part of their, when we go outside of our house, we are now in their house. So I really grew up with that strong connection to nature and love of animals. And started into the, you know, was showing horses, and my love for horses, and I live on a farm. And I kind of, my mom, we saw a naturopath and an herbalist. And my parents were, not my dad, but my mom and my grandma were very holistic. So I decided that I did want to eventually, when my father was pushing me strong enough to try to figure out what I'm supposed to do or what I wanted to do. And when I got into conventional veterinary medicine, I quickly jumped the fence, right? Like I was going to school, and I was really, really dedicated to learning and being as, you know, diligent about learning what I could. And I started out as a veterinary technician, and worked for a very large veterinary hospital for many, many years, but quite quickly started seeing animals, even back then, which would have been like in the late 70s, be really sick. Like, I was used to animals on our farm, you know, cats, it sounds horrible, but cats being run over by the tractor when they were 26, 27 years old because they were blind and deaf and still out hunting, right? And like, that was their death, and that was their age expectancy. And we had, you know, dogs that were, you know, eating groundhogs and living outside, and big dogs, like most of them were collie crosses, and they were 16, 17 years old. And I was really always questioning why I was seeing dogs dying a lot younger, and how come our animals on the farm never really got sick, right? Like, they got broken legs and they had injuries and things like that, but they didn't often get sick. But I was very stubborn. I'm Irish Yugoslavian, and you know, what I learned is what I learned, and I didn't want to listen to my mother, and I didn't want to listen to my grandmother, and I knew best. And oh my gosh, I can't believe you're not feeding this dog kibble, and what's wrong with you, and everyone needs to be, anyways. So finally they had this massive intervention with me and sat me down and said, you know, we love you to death, and we would do anything for you, and this is where you need to be. You need to be helping animals, but ever since you've been doing it, they're all getting sick. Like, all of our small animals on the farm are getting sick. And I still argued with them until my dog at 4 years old got cancer. And he was my heart dog, one of my heart dogs. And I was beyond devastated. And I wouldn't let anybody touch them, and I didn't know what to do. And I went to my mom, and I was like semi-hysterical. How can this be? He's 4 years old. He has the best of care. And I said, what do I do? And she said, you know what to do? Go talk to Virginia. And Virginia was our herbalist naturopath. And I went to Virginia, and first thing she said to me is, get him off of that food. Get him on, gave me a cooked diet back then. But, you know, we started doing SEX suppositories and doing all of this stuff. And I took him to a board certified surgeon. And the tumor was about the size of a small lemon, and he couldn't get him in for surgery because it was going to be a very big surgery. They were going to have to resect some of his bowel. Had a very grave prognosis. And so I went home for 2 weeks before I had to take him back down to have the surgery done. And by the time I got him back down, they took him to surgery. I got a hotel close by because it was quite a ways away. And they called me and I thought he had died. Like I was just like, why are they calling me so soon? Well, the surgery was about a quarter of the length that it was supposed to be. The tumor had gone from the size of a small lemon to the size of a grape. It was completely encapsulated. They didn't have to resect any of his bowel. And right then and there, I knew that I had to like completely look at a different approach. So after he recovered, I took some time off because I felt like I didn't want to treat animals anymore. I didn't want to have anything to do with animal medicine because I was so heartbroken and discouraged that I thought maybe I'll become a naturopath or a chiropractor. So I went to Spain. And when I got to Spain, I got really sick, and with something that I used to get when I was stressed, which was almost like an inflammatory bowel disease. I would get hemorrhagic gastritis, and I would be sick for a long time, like usually 2 weeks, something like that. And anyways, my girlfriend's boyfriend took me to the hospital, and as soon as they found out, they put me on IV fluids, and as soon as they found out that it was something that I had in my past, and that it was usually stress induced, another doctor came in and started asking me questions. It's actually funny a little bit. Started asking me questions like, am I stressed, and what are my dreams like? And I'm like, what is going on here? Just give me some drugs. And like I thought I was gonna like die. Like, why is he asking me all these questions? Anyways, he was a homeopath, and he treated me homeopathically, and within 3 days I was out of the hospital and backpacking. And it was like for me, it was like a miracle. So that led me to wanting to be a homeopath. I wound up going to UBC to do 4 years of human homeopathic medicine, and within about 5 minutes I decided that I had to figure out how to do this with animals. So then after the 4 years, I went to England with the British Homeopathic Veterinary Surgeons program in England. And then when I came back to Vancouver, I opened a clinic and went through a very, very long process of becoming the first licensed holistic veterinary clinic in Canada. And did that for many, 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 many years. And then I taught a postgraduate holistic veterinary medical program. And then that led me to selling everything because I was burning out, and move to a farm, a rescue farm where I have rescue horses and cows and potbelly pigs and horses and dogs and cats. And I basically have created a supplement company with all the formulations that I've used at my clinic. And that's what I do now. And like Isla, I'm sort of, my career with my supplement company has been, I've been very blessed. I always say it's the spirit of my animals because I don't know how I even do what I do. And now I'm on a project to try and support the planet through forests, and doing along with my supplement company, but doing a project with medicinal mushrooms and the microbiome and of the actual soil to see if we can slow down logging and clear cutting and things like that, to show that our forests have so much to offer us other than just killing trees. So much to offer us from financially, like, you talk about, being an entrepreneur, the forest can provide medicinal things for us that would just blow our minds. And we're looking at them for pulp and paper, right? And so, yeah, so I'm here because through my 20 years at my vet hospital, I've been shown literally thousands and thousands of times the connection that animals and people have, and how we teach each other and how we move through the world together. And exactly what Isla said, like Isla and I have very, very similar philosophies that, you know, given the chance, our animals can change our lives. You know, they really, really can, if we can step back enough to really be able to see it. So that's part of what Isla does, is she helps teach people how to do that, which is how we connected in a conference that we were both lecturing at. And then from my end, I'm much more like the emotional, spiritual, physical disease process, and how they're all connected and what we can do about that. So there you go, Joanne.
Thanks, Julie. Awesome. So, you know, for the trip, well, like I said, this event has been very special because I actually thought about this more than more than a year ago, even before I joined Mindvalley, kind of thing. It's really bizarre, but I had a vision one day of having Isla and Julie together, where we push for something very spiritual and very special. And basically, it's conscious caregiving for animals. And the question is, you know, what is a conscious caregiver? You know, most people, we're pet parents, right? We adopt or we purchase them and we feed them. I mean, like, I started out as really a very simple novice pet parent. So I did everything the conventional vet told me to do. So I fed kibble to my cat, and my cat got very sick within a few months, you know, and she was a kitten at that time. And after repeatedly going through the cycle of taking antibiotics and steroids and antibiotics and steroids and prescription diet, and nothing worked, and I just thought, this can't be it. Don't tell me, you know, vets, this is it. This is all that it is to help the animal. And that became my quest, my desire to figure out, okay, I need to find alternative answers, you know. And that led me down a beautiful rabbit hole, you know, where in my journey I came across Isla, and then I came across Julie Anne Lee, you know, and here we are today, which is really amazing. So I'm gonna ask, you know, Isla and Julie, especially Isla can start first. Like, what do you think it means, you know, conscious caregiving for animals?
I just, you know, it's, even when you say those words, like, my entire being just lights up. All the hair stands on end, because it's such a, like you say, I'm just like, thank you, Amrys, for actually creating this and bringing us together in this way, because it's so needed. That animals have been calling for it for such a long time, and now it's finally happening, not just in this community but in other communities as well. And for me, yeah, that conscious caregiving is that conscious awareness, that moment to moment to moment, we are present in our actions, we are present in our attitude, we are present in who we are and how we are, and also who our dogs are and how they are. Not just dogs, I so focused on dogs, our animals, our pets, our companion animals. And understanding, really going straight in there and diving in there, of first and foremost recognizing that we are all vibration and frequency, and that is how we all flow and move and affect one another. But also, we are just a chapter in our book. We are just in a body having an experience. And so there is this beautiful spiritual contract that we have being here now, that our animals have being here now, and that we have agreed to be here now together to have these experiences. And for me, being conscious also includes being conscious of the spiritual, not just nourishment, but the spiritual being that we are, and how we operate from that place, how we operate from that system of love and spirit. So I see it as two systems of the fear and the ego that I know I am here to support animal companion animal guardians, and to support professionals as well, to go, let's take away that distorted operating system of ego and fear, which is there as a survival strategy, and come back to that operating system which is oneness, which is wholeness, which is wellness, which is holistic and holistic in that perspective of that place of love and spirit. And so having the consciousness of the things that are happening around us, the things that are showing up in our lives, even to the point of, wow, why is my dog doing this? We get so focused on how we can fix an animal, get so focused on how it's our attention is on the animal, but trying to mold it, make it change, make it be different, or how we are fed from that distorted place of what it means to be a cat, like what a cat should be, what a horse should be, what a dog should be, without having that understanding, acceptance of, wow, our animals are also emotional beings, and having a conscious awareness of this beautiful cocktail, this beautiful tapestry of what emotions are. And also when our animals are showing up as a trigger, they are showing up literally as a reflection, as a mirror, to say to us, yeah, I am here to have an experience with you as we coexist as a family, but I'm also here as a soul, as a being, to allow you to return to what it is that you are as a human being on this earth as well, what our function is, what our purpose is. And for me, that is coming back into oneness, coming back into that, yeah, all that is. And so, yeah, the consciousness for me is every moment, like our animals so beautifully remind us, they live from present moment, they live from their heart, they feel and respond from the heart, even if they're doing something that annoys us or embarrasses us that we don't like. And again, if those emotions that are denser in vibration are showing up in us about our animals, then actually looking at that again as a reflection and going, hang on, why am I embarrassed? Why am I feeling irritated? Why am I not happy with this? What is my dog showing up to tell me about itself, but also about myself? And so responding more from the heart for me is where we live and operate from when we are conscious. Yeah.
Thanks, Isla. Julie, what is, what do you think is conscious caregiving for animals?
Well, I agree with everything that Isla says. I also feel like it's layered, right? Like I feel like our animals teach us how to almost like go up the ladder. So I think consciousness can start from just being aware that our animals are feeling something different than us, or feeling exactly the same as us, is a huge step for people. And I think that when it comes to like the veterinary industry part, consciousness for me is the whole gamut. Like my clinic opened in 1994, so a long time ago. And when I opened it, I had like, I had no steel tables. I had no, the only steel tables we had was in surgery, because I kind of couldn't get my head around walking in with an animal that was already scared and then putting it onto a table that it can't get any grip, that it's sliding around on the table, and then wondering why it's trying to nip at you, or why it's crying, or why it's trying to jump off the table, or why its heart rate is racing, or why you can't get blood. Like even that disconnection and that unconsciousness of what that animal is going through. So I've spent a lot of years teaching veterinarians different ways of making it easier for animals, like being conscious of what's making them scared. How can we alleviate that fear? How do we, from a place of like taking blood, doing blood work, being on yoga mats, and all my technicians just going on the floor and taking blood rather than putting them on the table. Or we had big leather ottomans. So so when you look at consciousness, we can look at it at all different levels. It's really being aware. And then from a perspective of empowerment, right? Like I always feel to be conscious, to help be the best caregiver and the best guardian for our animal, we have to be conscious of what they're going through, not just what we're feeling. Like Isla said, like we're trying to, like, we might be feeling fear, we might be feeling whatever, but as an animal, what are they feeling? It's like to step outside ourselves and what we want and how we want to fix things really quickly or whatever, that we're not paying attention to what are our animals really, what's best for our animal, what does our animal want. So there's the level of consciousness within veterinary medicine, and then there's a level of consciousness as a guardian for our animals, like the voice of our animals. And in order for either one of those two things to happen, Isla's completely right. We have to come back into ourselves and get present and solid and grounded in order to even make those decisions as a veterinarian, as a veterinary technician, as an assistant, as a pet parent. It really doesn't matter. It requires us to get out of the chaos and the chatter and the noise in our head and be aware. I also feel like consciousness is observation. And as someone that was taking a lot of cases with very, very sick animals, probably the first 5 years of my practice, I got all end stage animals with cancer, third and fourth opinions from other vet clinics. There was a lot of sadness and sickness and desperation, and we've done all of this, now our animals are going to die. And so then they take them to the holistic clinic and say, you have to, if you don't save them, we have to put them down, because we were so new, we were sort of people's last choice. So when I would say to people, so what does your dog do with this? Or what does your cat do with this? Or what's different at your stable with your horse that might be different? I was blown away by people's inability to even think of what might have changed for an animal and how that animal might have, well, there's nothing. And then you're like, okay, well, did a friend move in? Did a friend move out? Did someone? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, well, our daughter just went to university. Right. So it's like that inability to connect that might affect an animal. It was just mind-blowing for me. And that brings it all the way up to, a personal experience even that I had when even I was teaching about consciousness with animals and teaching people that, species oriented lifestyle, right? So what are we, exactly what Isla said, what are we putting a dog? We're putting a dog into a human life, or we're putting a cat into a human life and expecting them to respond accordingly. And the amount of stress that puts on an animal is incredible, right? Or people not understanding that if you just want to laze around all day and watch Netflix, but when you walk outside the door and your dog or your cat is alone all day long, they don't have the ability to watch Netflix. Like, just that to me is conscious pet parent, being aware of what your animal goes through day to day. And I was going to get into a lot more about how what we put out and how the animal feels when that is being put out. But one thing I wanted to say is it's easy to talk about it, but it's not as easy often to do, because I had a horse that I loved more than anything on the planet. And my horse was really sick for 3 years. And I was determined to save this horse. I was determined that this horse was not going to die. How could this happen? This is what I do for a living. I felt like a failure. I felt like I have to be able to figure out a way to be able to fix this horse. And then he died. And the second he died, I realized that I had spent 3 years focused on saving him and not being present with him. I lost 3 years of my horse's life being so terrified of death and him dying and me not being able to fix him that I actually missed 3 years of being with him. So conscious pet parenting, or being conscious, is I really feel are the gifts that our animals are bringing us to not only connect with them, but to connect with other people, connect with ourselves, connect with whatever fits for your philosophy, right? Animals don't have a philosophy. So they help to guide you into what fits for you in your philosophy. They're not sitting there saying you need to be a Buddha, or you need to be this, or you need to be that. They are who they are, and they're connected to everything. So it's so easy to learn from them, even feeling safe and familiar within something that you're comfortable with. So that's
Thanks.
my thought.
Thanks,
one
Julie.
small piece, just like Isla. Like there's like it could go on for a lifetime.
Well, it is a lifetime, isn't it? Everything that we're doing, this journey is a lifetime, physically, and then even when we pass over, it's still a journey which we haven't experienced yet, but I do believe it's going to be there still, So anyway, Isla has this really interesting topic that she wanted to share, and so I'll leave it to her.
Thanks, Amrys. And I just want to honour and welcome Gloria into the circle as well. Welcome, Gloria. Nice to have you and see you. Come in. Yeah, so I want to share, I guess, in these, as we're sitting here chatting, I'm like, oh, we can talk about this, we can talk about this, but it's just a lifelong journey, and then a journey within journeys within journeys of these many lives that we have been and will continue to be.
Hi, hello.
Hi, Gloria.
Yes, hi. Hi, everyone. I was listening to what you are saying. So interesting, so important from the animals. I love the animals too. And I don't imagine what say Julie Anne Lee. She say that the animals don't care if you are Buddha or something like that, They just are connected with everything. And that's make my mind like, oh my God, yeah, that is true.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. Yeah, so I think trying to keep it to one kind of just little area and subject that I wanted to bring into the circle today for this gathering of information. Again, it's a tapestry of subjects and topics, allowing us to be more and more conscious guardians for our animals, is the power of thought and the power of words, holding that intention. So moving on to the topics that we've already kind of brought forward about, everything is interconnected. We are not living in a home with our animals and ourselves, and there's a separation there. As we stand as physical animals, there is this beautiful vibration and energy that, like we start with the meditation, those threads that just connects us all in this beautiful web and this beautiful tapestry. And so because everything is a vibration, everything is a frequency, having an awareness of not only what we feel about ourselves and what we say about ourselves, but that perspective of being conscious of the thoughts that we have, the words that we speak to our animals. And I see it all the time, and I said this the other day, even if we're joking about our animals, I'm not even sure if I can swear in this, so I won't, but if someone's like, oh, my dog, the a-hole, and even though there's jest about it, I'm like, wow, but that is also kind of holding a vibration. And like, how often do you use that word? How often do you say that to your dog? And stepping away from the fact of animals don't understand words, but they understand the intention and the vibration of them. And this is why, if we're going off to work and we're going to be 4 or 5 hours, don't say, I'll be back in a minute, I won't be long, I'll be back in a minute. If you're going to be long, then say you're going to be long. If you're going to be back in a minute, say you're going to be back in a minute. But even deeper with that, the thoughts that we are having about our animals, the thoughts that we're having about how they're going to be, how they're not going to be, what they're going to cope with, what they're not going to cope with, the thoughts that we're having about their procedures, their therapies, what it is that they need. If we know that our animal isn't in a place of emergency of going to the vets immediately because there's been an accident, but they need a certain procedure, and the animal's not comfortable with that, then explaining that to them, really guiding them through it, through the power of thought, the power of words that hold a vibration. Thoughts become things, words become things. Like I said in the opening meditation, words hold medicine or poison. They can inspire, they can tire, they can raise consciousness, they can lower consciousness. So setting our dogs up when we become more conscious of what it means to coexist with an animal, of like, oh, I might know that you're going to the vet in a couple of days, but actually you don't have an awareness of that. But I'm going to share that with you. It's still in the animal's full right to express what they need to express, but at least they have an understanding of like, right, so in 2 dark nights, as I always say to my dogs, if like, because it's the 2 dark nights is when I've been asleep rather than when they've been asleep. And so I've learned that through my animals, that when I would used to say to them, so guys, like I was took this for example, my dogs, okay, in 3 dark nights, sorry, in 3 sleeps, so in 3 sleeps, this is what's going to be happening. And in the same day, she was starting to act a bit weird, and I'm like, what is going on? And then of course for an animal, for dogs, for cats, like they can be asleep during a day maybe 6, 7, 8 times, whereas for us it's like we wake up, we're awake all day, we might have a little nana nap maybe, but then on a night time, like that is our sleep. So she was getting confused because I was like, okay, in 3 sleeps we need to go to the vets, and she was like, this is like sleep number 3, it's what's going on? And I'm like, that, what's she playing at? And so that's also like through being conscious of, again, what are we here to learn? I've already said this to her, I've already tried this procedure, what else can I identify, what else from her perspective she's not understanding? So our animals always teach us so much. So yeah, even from a very simple thing of preparing our animals, if they do need to go to the vet, if we're all going on holiday, if friends are coming round, preparing that for animals, because it's something that we know, so we know to expect it, but we can tell it to our animals and they understand the intention through the thoughts that we create with that, and also the words that we speak. And therefore having also an intention of the words that we speak, including how we're preparing our dog's food. Are we, I'm preparing their food, but I've had an argument with my husband, or I'm mad at a friend, or my boss told me off at work and so I'm just really angry with them, or I'm just really tired, or I don't really care about my dog's food. Like, you are that energy, you are, in a sense, well, not in a sense, you are also part of the medicine that supports your animal's wellness, that supports your animal's health, that supports your animal's nourishment. So again, going back to consciousness, wow, are we consciously, it's always about showing up, show up, be present, show up, be present. Are we showing up in every waking moment, and even actually in that sense in our dream time, to coexist with our animals consciously? So for me, it's often like some words that I might sing when I'm speak when I'm doing my dog's food, or I'll put on music that really like ignites my soul, fills it with love, fills it with beauty, fills it with, it's like, oh, when I hear this song, I just feel so alive, and I'm singing that as I'm preparing my animal's food, my dog's food, because again, that is bringing in the power of intention as I'm working with the food. I've got my hands in the food, and yeah, doing a little blessing around it as well. And then in our waking day of how we communicate with our dogs, if they're walking off, I keep saying dogs, and I do mean animals, just because I'm so used to working with dogs, but we do mean animals. But yeah, are we out walking our dogs? Are we speaking to our cats? If we got parrots, gerbils, hamsters, horses, whatever, but this awareness, this consciousness of the words that we speak, knowing, and again, this is where the consciousness comes from, knowing that the words that we speak are medicine or toxin. The words that we speak, like, wow, for every word that I speak, is that like giving my animal a juicy little kind of elixir that's really going to like really bring out this nourishment in all aspects of who they are as best as we can, knowing that there are other triggers and factors that we kind of have no control of? Or are we using words that are really deflating, really kind of putting the animal in a very dense energy, as dense vibration, which again, if our animal already is compromising their ecosystem, is already compromising their wellness, words can make a huge difference. Words can really support our dogs in their healing process, their recovery, or they can really prolong the healing period, the healing time. They can really prolong an injury or a physical distress, as well as an emotional and mental distress, and therefore the spiritual distress for that animal as well. And so what I invite everybody as our kind of first gathering and first circle is fun. As I can't even say it's homework, but just fun. For me, I'm just always about, let's just have fun and be playful, because this is a lifelong journey. But start to notice how present you are in how you speak to your animal, how you speak to yourself, and start to notice the words that you use. And again, particularly when we start to come out of being conscious of whether we are getting a bit stressed ourselves, or we're getting angry or getting irritated, then become conscious of, like, hang on a minute, why am I angry or irritated? Why is my animal making me feel angry or irritated? And where is that actually coming from? What is that teaching me about myself? Because it doesn't start or end with our animals. It's a deeper lesson, which is why our animals so beautiful show up for ourselves as well as many other factors. So that's an invitation that I have of the power of the thoughts become things, the power of the voice, the power of the words, holding that medicine or that poison. Even for me, it's just clearing, like, speaking when we're putting a dog's lead on, when we are cleaning our cat's litter tray. Are we using words that are always supportive? And with that, not giving ourselves a hard time if we don't, because we are human. We do get triggered. We do trip up. We do have stresses that our animals don't have to deal with in the way that, because of the animal that they are at this time, and what we are as a human at this time. So I'm very big about, like, just never giving yourself a hard time, because it's the victory is when you recognize it. The victory is like that. Oh, okay, I've just noticed that I use this word towards my animal, or I'm really stressed and I'm getting a bit annoyed with my animal. So start to be playful, just to begin with, bringing in that consciousness and bringing in that awareness. And so that's what I wanted to share as a start, as a little bit of an invitation, of an exploration, of a quest, as we call it. With my own clients, I always talk about quests, and I know Amrys has talked about that, and I'm like, yes, let's go on a quest. Quests are fun and adventurous and awesome. We all get to be Indiana Jones, which is very exciting. So yeah, my invitation for our first kind of month of this circle is to pay attention consciously to the thoughts that you have about yourself and your animal or animals, and the words that you speak to yourself and your loved ones, including your animals, and knowing that every word that you speak, every thought that you had becomes a thing. Every word that you speak, every thought that you have is a vibration that can raise consciousness, lower consciousness, can inspire or tire. Are we using words of, like, oh, I love you, I hate you, you make me angry? As I say, we swearing at our dogs, even if we are kind of joking, it's still like, yeah, but there's still like that intention behind it. And knowing that for everything that we do, that is either supporting our animal's vibration and energy and ecosystem, or it's yet another factor that is affecting the dog's vibration. And because our animals are so, I mean, they coexist with us, they're so close to us, that we have that strong pull of us being this pulsating being, can really influence how our animals are responding, how our animals are healing, how healthy are. Like Julie Anne said, with, like, one of my dogs got cancer in 2020, and I still don't see that she has cancer. It's never been, I see it as information to go, what can I learn about this? I don't know anything about this cancer. I didn't even know she had cancer in the anal sac. I didn't even know you could get cancer in the anal sac, but you can. And certainly dogs can. I suppose cats can as well. But yeah, just then I'm like, brilliant. This is another quest for me. How can I learn about this cancer? But equally, that's not her. That doesn't define her. But again, if we are the guardian, where we start to worry, start to panic, or fixate on something, again, that is still an energy, that is a vibration, that is, what words are we then speaking about that? Like, oh, you've got to excuse me, my dog's got cancer, you've got to feel sorry for her, she's got cancer, or she's responding this way because she's got cancer, and we're just feeding it. That's what we're feeding. So I've never, my closest friends know that she has it, but it's something that I never talk about. Tunkasir and I work with it in our own way, but it's not something that I'm feeding, because I know that that's going to vibrationally create more of it. Yeah, so that's my invitation to you all for this circle. And I do recognise that Benita has joined us as well, so welcome into the space as well.
Thanks, Isla. Wow, power of words. That is something that I struggle with still every day. I'll be honest. And yes, you can swear in this program, no problem, because I have a potty mouth. So, there you go. But Julie Anne Lee, what are your thoughts and what would you like to share?
I think that, again, I agree 100%, and I think I'm always going to probably bring it back to a lot of it to our understanding, because I think and what animals bring to our own lives, that we are what we can learn with our animals, we can move into the world to be. I think animals teach us how to be better humans, and I think it's because we have the space to be able to learn with them, because we trust them more often. Most people, many people that I've found, trust our animals more than we trust people. So what happens, I think, and how we have this amazing ability to learn from our animals is exactly what Isla said. It's like if we are frustrated and we say something to our animal, and then we can sort of it's easier for us to be consciously aware, because then our animals aren't turning around and going, well, screw you too, and then creating a fight, right? So it gives us that space they give us a space to be aware. They unconditionally love us. So it's easier for us to learn how to be a better human being with our animals than I feel that it is with another human. And then we can take what we learn with our animals and we can bring it into the world. So but first you have to be conscious that they're conscious. So first of all, you have to get to that place where if you tell your animal to, screw off, and you're actually aware that what you just said to them is going to hurt them, or affect them, or it's going to affect their energy. But then I think it's a much easier way to step back and go, wow, I just said that. Holy. So it makes us more conscious as a human, so that the next time you walk into a room and you want to say the same thing to somebody else, like to a human being, that lesson with that animal has been one piece of information that you've been able to have the space to be aware, to become aware. So I think it's a bunch of different, I think it works in very interesting ways, and it's different with every single person and every single animal. But if we allow ourselves to be more conscious with an animal, I think they can teach us faster than a person, than another relationship, or your children, or anything like that. The other thing I wanted to say too is this thing around guilt, and this thing around like doing our best and being human beings, and giving ourselves space to recognize and then not feel guilty. I spent a lot of time with people, with clients with animals that were really sick, that had a lot of guilt around it because they didn't feel they had time for their animals, because they're soccer moms, and I mean there's soccer's, with COVID and stuff, it's different. We have a whole other bunch of stuff that we feel guilty about, but trying to find the space to be with your animal, because I find that what people do is when they feel guilty about their animals, it's easier to ignore your animals, right? They don't like tag on your thing, or they don't freak out like your husband or your wife or your children or whatever. They're easier to oh, I just don't have time to do that right now with them, right? Because they're not as in your face as your boss or your business or your children or your husband or your wife or your whatever. So I always try and tell people that in order to try and start that process of being conscious of your animal, therefore becoming conscious of yourself. Start to include your animals in your family as much as you can. So if you don't have time to take them for a walk, or you don't, animals are group animals, are very family oriented. So instead of running upstairs and reading a bedtime story to your kids, and your dog sits, or your cat even sits on the couch while you're upstairs with your children, if you really don't have the time to spend with your animals like you can, because we're in this crazy, everyone is like crazy busy, then take your dog upstairs with you and get them on the bed and let them be part of the storytelling, right? Like, include them in your family. Be conscious that oh yeah, we're all upstairs having a story time, but the dog's downstairs and he's been downstairs all day, or my cat's been downstairs all day. Even just being conscious of that, to bring that animal up into the bedroom to be, as you know, and as much a part of the family, and like take the book and read the book, and then look at your dog and go, do you think that's funny too? Like get them, like exactly what Isla said. It's not even if they understand the storybook or not, but to look at your dog's face and go, did you think that was funny? Don't tell me one single person that has a dog or a cat that wouldn't say. They would engage them. They would feel engaged, right? So I think that it's the inclusion too, and the fun part, because exactly what you said, Isla, too, like if kids are getting happy and everyone's running around, or you're even dancing in the kitchen and your dog starts barking, or your cat starts doing whatever, it's sometimes people will get upset because they're barking. Well, that's showing that they're excited, right? So then again, it puts us into awareness. So rather than going, quiet, quiet, don't bark, like stop barking, it's like stepping back, and animals are constantly bringing us into the moment, constantly, if we allow them to. If we are aware, they're constantly doing it. Exactly what Isla said. If they're doing something and you're embarrassed because they're doing something, it's time for you to step back and go, why am I embarrassed? Well, what's that going to do? That's actually going to give you more confidence as a person. It's going to bring in your self-worth to be able to go, that's interesting, because I really don't care if that person thinks my dog is being X, Y, and Z, or my cat is being this way, or my horse is being this way. So I really do feel that if you're on Mindvalley, or you're on any other platform that you're trying to learn how to be more conscious, or more grounded, or more in the moment, there's no better teacher than an animal, because in their eyes, you're not going to do it right. You're not going to do it wrong. You're not going to be judged. You're just going to be you, and they're going to accept you whether you do it right or wrong or indifferent. And they just probably will appreciate even that extra moment that you're spending with them, whether you look goofy or you're not doing it right. It doesn't matter. They're a huge help to our overall well-being.